Good morning, David.
Morning, Les. How you doing?
Fantastic, man.
So, welcome everybody to Dynamic Healing Moments. And we're still on the topic of sleep, which will be the last phase of this particular series. Next week, we're actually going to talk about loss, which has been a big deal for me personally this last few weeks. I've had two major losses myself, and two friends have had major losses. And so, something that I have a lot of personal experience with. Les has a lot of professional experience dealing with people with loss. So I'm anxious to learn what he has to say, believe it or not. Well, you're my freaking guru. So I'm going to learn something here. Anyway, the topic we're talking about today is probably, I have the most expertise of this than anybody that I know. Anger and sleep. And it's fascinating to me because I always used to make a joke of it, but it's not really a joke, where disguising anger is my most highly developed skill, and it is. But it's not a skill necessarily to be proud of course, but I can disguise anger any way, shape, or form. But the litmus test, the bottom line is that when I'm angry, I might not think I'm angry during the day, but I'm laying there at night and my heart's racing, my breath is going, there's not a chance in the world I'm going to sleep. So the thing we've been talking about this whole week is that the reason why you can't sleep is because your body's is activated. So you can't rest if you're activated. So you can do all the sleep hygiene you want, but if you are angry when you go to bed, forget about it. Forget about the rest of it. So again, sleep hygiene is important. Common sense things are important. And one of the common sense things we talked about is not doing things that potentially could make you angry. I mean, reading business emails at 10 o'clock at night is not a good idea. You don't know what you're going to find, right?
Right.
So all I can tell you, for me personally, I can disguise anger during the day, but I cannot disguise it at night.
Yep.
Yeah, it's right there.
Absolutely. David, I think you hit a couple of important points. But before we do that, I mean, we need to check on your sleep, right, audience? I bet you they're dying to know, were you a compliant patient or not? I mean, I'm going to put that in your chart, non-compliant.
Well, I did sleep last night. So I did a couple things. I exercised earlier and a little bit more lightly. I did not have leg cramps. I really had to just force myself to walk past the computer last night. I had a bunch of things I hadn't done. I had a really nice day, but I didn't get things done that I wanted to get done. So I walked past the computer. I did not turn it on, and I went to bed. Normally, it would have been another half an hour before I went to bed. My brain would have been full of emails, etc. Who knows what would have been in there. And I passed right out and had a great night's sleep. So we talked about doing an experiment this morning, which we're not going to do, but you were going to piss me off this morning to see how I did processing anger, but we're not going to do that. But what I do want to point out is that processing anger is different than what you think. We think in terms of forgiveness and letting go and a big deal, but anger hits you every day. We're victims of stuff every day. And so it's a learned skill just to process it minute by minute by minute by minute as it comes along. There's no end point to processing anger. But I guess, Dr. Arya, what I'm trying to ask you is that, okay, say I, for whatever reason, this is, I try to go to bed at 10 o'clock now at the latest, sometimes earlier, which is a big difference for me. So I'm getting a more regular bedtime, which is a significant fact in sleep. Let's say at 9 o'clock, for some reason, I get really irritated by something. And I don't watch the news at night anymore, which is, again, another major step. The news doesn't make me so happy anymore. So let's say I'm angry at 9 o'clock at night, and I'm trying to go to bed at 10. I really want to be ready for the next day. All right, so I'm activated. What do I do?
So one of the most untaught things, which we've emphasized a few times the week before and last week, is when you have an angry thought or you notice a spike in your physical sensations at night, right before you go to bed, or just you're dealing with a raw emotion like anger or frustration for that matter. What you want to do is, one, notice, two, name it to tame it. And let me back up to the notice. So think of this as the 3 N's, like the letter N. So I like acronyms. So the first thing to do, I know. You like acronyms. Yeah.
I do.
So you do. So the first step, when you notice, I'm going to keep it even simpler. When you notice a mood shift or tension in your body, the first thing you are to do is to notice that something just dropped in on you. Something shifted in your nervous system.
Right.
And besides noticing that shift, locate where in the body are you holding that emotional charge. For example, David, when you get pissed off, best guess, where do you hold your anger? In your back, in your chest, in your jaws, your shoulders? Where do you think you hold it the best place?
Oh, it's right in my shoulder. Definitely in my shoulders. Yeah.
All right, great. So then step one is to notice there was a mood shift and then locate where in the body. Step two, name it to tame it. Out of UCLA, they found out that when people actually name the emotion versus trying to avoid it, when you actually say, so this is what anger feels like, you say that statement, so this is what anger feels like, and you're focusing on your body part, what does that do? Brain science shows us that your primitive parts of your brain, the survival parts, the limbic system, the emotional brain, and the brainstem, they tend to become deactivated, and specifically the amygdala.
Okay.
It's like a smoke detector. So when you notice there was a mood shift, and then you locate it in your body, you're still in notice. And then when you start to say, so this is what anger feels like, what you're doing is you are deactivating the primitive parts and putting on the frontal lobes, and specifically to the right dorsal prefrontal cortex. Whew, DLPFC.
All right.
And what they found out was
I will choose to be impressed by that.
basically the front right part of your brain lights up. And when that lights up, your brain doesn't have to go searching for memories of people pissing you off and things. So when you actually label and admit as the first step, like, yeah, I'm pissed off. You've located in your body, you admitted that, yes, I'm pissed off. Because one of the things we want to do, what I do quite frequently, is like, no, I'm not mad, but actually I am. And so you name it, so you notice it, you name it. So this is what anger feels like. And here's the third part, nurture. Notice, name, nurture. And what does nurture feel like? It's basically at that point you drop into your breath and you breathe from that shoulder, that area. Let's just say for me, it's my back. So the very lower middle, like L4, L5, I mean, that's why it tends to tighten up. And so when I hold my anger in, and so I will breathe from that area, I would basically put a circle around that area and I'd breathe from it. How many? Anywhere from 3 to 10 breaths, and just focus on it. What you've done there is you've de-escalated all the past being flooding into the present moment. And so therefore now you have some wisdom to make some choices. All right, this is not helpful right now. Let me do some expressive writing. It's time for me to put that aside. So you're really using a lot of brain physiology here. Notice, name, nurture. Back at you, David.
No, I like that. I'm going to make a couple points though. So first of all, it's desirable to process anger during the day as it comes along, because it does build up.
Yes.
Second of all, people just don't recognize their anger. That is a major issue. We'll talk about this again. We've talked about it in the past. But the disguises of anger are incredible, because I can't tell you the number of people in chronic pain say, I'm not angry. And then when they recognize the anger, they actually don't want to give it up. It's addicting, it's powerful. They do not want to give it up. They're not available to be vulnerable, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
So I'm just urging, and it's also, I pointed out in the notes today, that it's also the shortcut to healing. If your nervous system is activated, you are not going to sleep. You are not going to heal. And a lot of people, again, we talked about this a couple days ago about sleep. If you're really not serious about sleep, you're not really serious about healing. So it all gets mixed together. It's all linked. And the bottom line is, what do you really want? And a lot of people really want to hold on to their anger and pain. And so they really don't sleep. They don't do the things they want to do. And it's also catch-22, because when you're angry, it's self-destructive.
Yep.
So guess what? One of the ways you self-destruct is that you don't sleep. So it's a very circular process. And so I like the idea of naming the anger, because that's been probably the biggest obstacle in my practice during the daytime, by the way, of people not moving forward. They don't recognize or acknowledge the fact that they're angry. So I like the idea of naming it. You're exactly right, shifting from the primitive centers to the neocortex, or the thinking centers.
Yep.
And I am going to try that. I think that's a great call.
I would like, David, for all of us, both of us and the audience, if they would be kind enough to message in the comment section, and where do they hold their anger? And so when you become aware of it, you'll be quite surprised, because the body part will actually give you a clue. The shoulder is sometimes we hold on to a lot. We're carrying the weight of the world on the shoulder. And for me, for my back, it's because I may not feel supported. or loved in a very particular way. When I have anger in my knees, which sometimes I do, when I have to bow down to, to an MD that I don't want to, and just to kind of, and this is my day-to-day work with different surgeons and things. My body will light up, and you're right about that. So I want the audience to really hear what you said, even though it was a cool statement you said. Sometimes we don't really recognize we're angry because we're so trained as anger is, how dare you get angry? Anger is a healthy emotion, but becomes toxic when you get drunk in it and you don't know how to kind of process it through, as David talks about the input-output systems. So it's really important for you to locate it in your body.
And again, another topic we'll bring up again is the self-critical voice. So remember, out of UCLA, it's the chronic stress that actually is deadly. Chronic low-grade stress, low-grade anger is a problem. So that's why you may not recognize it either. Is that day-to-day ongoing low-grade anger that may not even feel like anything at bedtime.
Right.
It's been there all day long. So why is it different now? So obviously when you explode, that's obvious. But that's not the deadly stress. What kills you is that low-grade ongoing victim role, and it's a problem. So I like it. So what's the lesson for the day? It's name it.
Name it. No. Notice.
Oh, notice. Okay.
Notice. Name. Nurture.
Nurture.
The 3 N's. Notice, name, nurture. And by the way, David, are we putting on a workshop for the inner critic?
We are doing a workshop, and it is in August. It's up on both of our websites, and it's a one-day workshop on Saturday. And let me get the date here. It is August 14th. So it'll be a Zoom workshop, and we're excited about it. And Les and I have had a healthy debate, and Les keeps losing the debate. Sorry about that. But there's a huge deal about the inner critic. It's actually a neurological trick. It's not rational, and there's ways of working around it to move on. So I think we agree on that.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Like a year to convince you, I realize that.
Yeah.
No, I learned a lot from us, seriously. Right? This inner critic thing is a big deal. He has come up with the concept of internal family systems, which is not, he didn't come up with it. He's brought it forward in a very powerful way.
Yeah.
And it was a Dick Schwartz that came up with it.
Dick Schwartz it is, and that's the name of the workshop is Attending and Befriending, is basically befriending your inner critics. And your mind is not made out of one, but different parts.
Right.
And we'll show you how to deal with it, so in a very organized manner. So.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Arya. Have a great day. And
thank you, Dr.
This
Hanscom.
is Dynamic Healing Moments, and Dr. Arya can be reached at remedypain.co. I can be reached at thedocjourney.com. And have a great day.
Have a great morning, everyone. Bye-bye.